To see that you're all coming in, and I see many people have their refreshments, their coffee already. Please make your way to your seat. There are refreshments. Please grab those. If you are on social media, we're going to be starting soon, but you have a brief moment. Please use our hashtag GTF2023 and hashtag greening the future. Be sure to share and tag at Mail and Guardian on all platforms, and let us start to celebrate and share the beautiful morning that's about to unfold. We're going to give it another about 5 minutes or so, and then we are going to officially start. So please grab your coffee, your tea, your refreshments, and then make your way to your seat, and we'll be starting shortly. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute honor to be standing here today as your host. My name is Catherine Constantinides. Some of you know me as Change Agent SA, and welcome to the Mail and Guardian Greening the Future Awards 2023 in partnership with Old Mutual, McDonald's, SAMHSA, Event Green Forum, Coca-Cola, Hideko, Land Bank, Honor, Fresh Earth, and Gourmet Gimba and Green Bee. We are so happy to have you here today to celebrate South Africa's heroes with who guard the environment, and to also unpack the climate crisis. The Greening the Future Award is an annual award that focuses on the strides being made in countering the threats to the natural world, which we are exacerbated by climate change and is really driven by greenhouse gas emissions. Before we introduce our panel and recognize the movers and shakers who are here in the room and those who have also joined us online, please welcome the Acting Chief Executive of the Mail and Guardian, Thembisa Pakude.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, nominees, winners, hello. My name is Thembisa. I'm here to welcome you in this very important function that starts on a very important day when COP28 is about to commence in the United Arab Emirates. Thirdly, that the country that's known to be one of the greatest polluters on earth, for some reason was chosen to host this extremely important event. So it's now up to you, because as you have noticed that you've been betrayed in your cause by the powers that be, some of whom sit in New York and Geneva, that they will decide on a country like that one to host an event like this one and allow that country to whitewash itself from the sins of, polluting this environment that all of us appreciate and love. So you see how important it is now that the job of activism resides in this room. And it also resides with Oz and team and the journalists that continue to tell these very important and beautiful stories. I'm not here to give you politics, but I'm a passionate activist. And at some point I was a full-time toy-toyer. So I do understand these issues quite well, and I've participated and commented on them. I was telling Takalani that, in fact, I wrote a book on trees. It was not the best of books, but it did sell. And it was about the socio-politicization of trees in South Africa. So I talked about the fever tree, the jacarandas and eucalyptus. All of these trees have got their own stories. I'm not going to take too much time. I've got 5 minutes, I'm aware of it. So, for example, I talked about the eucalyptus tree, how it was used as the fastest growing tree on earth to sustain the shafts. And for me, when I look at the eucalyptus, I see the tree that facilitated the theft of our wealth in this country, because the mining magnates at those times, they came in and they planted eucalyptus, which is a water guzzler, and sucked all our trees, all our water underground, and suffocated the acacias and all other indigenous trees that are supposed to be growing in this part of the world. So those are the kind of stories that I used to tell the jacarandas, what jacarandas meant to us. The Lombardy poplar, I don't know how many of you know, in Soweto, for example, where I grew up, every school had a Lombardy poplar. This is a long and they used to use the branches as shambles. So they will plant these trees in school in Soweto. But it goes on and on, you know, the umbrella thorns that were embraced by the First National Bank is their own, you know, another capitalist tree. For me, at least, I used to look at it from that perspective. The Palm Sunday, which is a very important tree in terms of our religious, some of us who are Catholics, who understand what the Palm Sunday is. The fever tree, which is an acacia again. Most white people in this country thought it was causing fever because whenever they got next to it, they used to get sick, but it's actually the mosquitoes. So the fever tree we used to look at it as a frontier against colonization and imperialism. So that's what I used to do in my young days. The last one was the weeping willow, which is a lover's tree. And for me, the branches used to symbolize the unending tears of disappointed young women. Disappointed by Tumbisa, of course, because all the lies were told underneath the weeping willow. But anyway, thank you for coming. And let me take also this opportunity to thank our sponsors, without whom we won't be having such an event. And it's important for me to say this because, you know, the business of news and all of that is now largely dependent on good hearts and people's vision. People understand why we have to continue to exist. So without sponsors, there is no greening the future. Without sponsors, there's no Male and Guardian. So thank you very much. And I'm hopeful that we're going to have a very fruitful day, and good luck to all the nominees, and congratulations to those that are going to win today. Thanks very much.
Thembisa, thank you very much. I don't think I'll be able to look at an acacia in the same way again, but I'd really like to actually find that book. I'm going to make a note of that because we're going to have to look at that tree book for sure. Today is really a full circle moment for me as well. 10 years ago today, I was a recipient of these prestigious awards. And so to be able to be here, to be your host today, I think it's important with all the doom and gloom that comes around the discussion of climate change, when we talk about sustainability, the heaviness of the subject. Today is really an opportunity to celebrate those who are in the room, those who are online with us, and the partners that make a day like this possible, because it is the innovation, the commitment, and the dedication of those who are here, not just the Male and Guardian team, but their extended team, to Oz as the editor of this specific segment, and also to those who are the role players that really are at the coalface of climate change, of water security, waste management, and many of the other topics that we're going to unpack today. For now, we're going to start off and jump straight into our panel. So please help me in welcoming our really esteemed panel of our panel who are going to take to the stage. And if I could ask you to come up. First up, Dora Marema. She's the portfolio head for municipal sustainability at the South African Local Government Association. Her experience in environmental sustainable, green entrepreneurship, gender and climate justice adds immense value. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Chris Yelland. He's an energy analyst. Many of you will know him or have heard his name on radio all of the time. He is a consultant, electrical engineer, public speaker, writer, and managing director at EE Business Intelligence. I found a very final panelist today is Professor Mulala Simatele. He's the Professor for Environmental Management and Sustainability Science at the Global Change Institute and in the School of Geography, Archaeology, and Environmental Studies at the University of the Witwatersrand. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to just make my way to this side. And Dora, I'm going to ask you to kick off. Please go ahead.
No, thank you so much. I think I am really in awe of this day and what it stands for. I always cherished these awards, and for the 20 years I spent in civil society, this was one of the highlights of the work that goes into fighting for an environment that unfortunately doesn't have a voice, cannot toy and take to the streets. So it needed men and women to stand up to be able to speak on its behalf. And I think we are meeting at a critical time. In fact, I'm flying tonight to the city of Dubai to try and to influence the discussions that are going on, because we are at the wit's end. I think being in the global south and in South Africa in particular, we can all agree that climate change is no longer a conceptual idea. It is actually something that is tangible because of its impacts that are very close to us. And it is important that as we reflect this morning, we understand that it is not just something that is too far. It manifests itself in the lives of people in our communities. That is not something that can be relegated into a policy or a strategy. It actually is about livelihoods of many of our people. You mentioned that many of them are actually at the coalface. And I think when we embark on the journeys, we take flights to go to Dubai, we realize that who are we speaking on behalf of? And I think it's important because always we remove ourselves from the reason why we are even talking about this just transition, or even the energy transition. We always believe that it's got something to do with policies and strategies, but if we are not anchoring that into what it means for Mamkhize, somewhere living in the village outside Spruno in the Eastern Cape, we are going to fall short. Because what it means is that we're going to try and come up with solutions that are, I always say, that are mechanical. We're going to think that this is a problem, we have to take this part, fix it, and replace it. Meanwhile, we are not able to see the holistic issues because it is not about the one thing. And if we're able to come up with transformational interventions that are going to transform the lives of our people, we have to look at this in a holistic issue, in a holistic way. Over the years, I've always asked myself, why does it feel like we are contributing so much into resolving this problem, but yet it doesn't feel like we are getting a lot out of it? And when I think about it, it's because we are dealing with systematic issues. And unfortunately, we are not able to come up with solutions and responses that are going to be able to honor the fact that life in a community is ongoing, is not designed in a form of a project or program. All of us sit in our offices, we come up with strategies and policies, from the donors to the academics, to the implementers, to the levels of government. And we are hoping somehow that all of these things will somehow come together. And I realize that for us to have transformational interventions with regard to the challenge of global climate change, we need to connect all the dots. We cannot continue to work in silos without actually being able to come together and have conversations like this. The private sector, civil society, academia, government, and the whole of society coming together. Because there is not going to be any positive impact if we are not going to maximize on our limited resources, our limited capacities. We are busy wearing ourselves out by running our own individual programs instead of coming together to be able to connect the work and the investments that all the different sectors and stakeholders are actually coming up with. Because unfortunately, global climate change is here with us. We know the world is warming at a very unprecedented way. And if we are not going to be able to respond, unfortunately, there will be no earth, or there will be no world to develop, or for us to develop projects and derive profits as the private sector. We are not going to be able to deliver sustainable services like ensure universal access to clean water, sanitation, housing, and all of that, purely because there will just be no world to be able to do that. And then what? What are we going to do? What will it take for us to be able to really come together and say, climate change knows no bounds. It knows no boundaries. It doesn't help me to only talk about the impacts of climate change in my community in the global south, because it knows no bound. And how can we be able to come together as within our nations first, and within our regions, within our continents, and within the world? Because it requires a multilateral system for us to be able to respond. However, we have to work from bottom up. It really has to be from that, because we cannot go up into the bottom and hope to come back and say, this was decided in Dubai in 2023. And as a result, we all need to implement. Unfortunately, we are carrying the dreams and the visions and the plights of our people with us. And it cannot be that the few of us that have got a privilege to have platforms and opportunities to engage, we then leave those masses behind when we are taking advantage of these spaces. It is about the people. It will always be about the people. And we cannot create solutions with the same mentality that created the problem in the first place. And we are the ones that we're waiting for. Thank you.
Chris, over to
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, thanks for those comments. Yeah, I've been thinking about sustainability, climate change, COP28, and South Africa. And we seem, the subject is complex in the sense that it is seen in South Africa through different lenses. On the one side, there's a very populist lens, which is perhaps founded by working class people and even the unemployed, for whom climate change is very remote from their day-to-day experiences and their immediate needs, and is seen as something somewhat distant and academic. But of course, it is starting to touch on their daily lives, but I think they have more pressing priorities that face them day to day as they struggle, to eke out a living and an existence. And that's the one lens. The other lens on the other extreme is perhaps vocalized by more professional class people who have a less pressing pressures on their existence and are able, therefore, to turn their minds to longer term issues, which they see as almost existential issues facing the world. And in between these is a whole range of people who maybe can see both sides. But I think what's important is that we have to listen to both sides. We have to listen very carefully and not ignore the one narrative at the expense of the other, because politics extends from the populist level to the intellectual level, and everything in between. And getting to South Africa, we see a very complex situation playing out. Now, you probably know that I'm more focused on electricity and energy, but of course, climate change extends to other sectors like transportation, water, sanitation, a whole range of other issues. But looking just at the electricity to try and give an understanding of the complexity, just think about how complex the governance structure is in electricity. You have the presidency, you have National Treasury, you have the DMRE, the DPE, COGTA, you have the DFFE, you have the municipal sector, SALGA, you have ESCOM, you have the NERSA, the regulator, and you have the private sector. And and they all have a finger in the pie and an interest in electricity and energy. And it's very difficult to navigate and make decisions when these different parties pull in different directions. And when that happens, the center holds. Unfortunately, we're not on the same page. All these different parties are not on the same page. You see it every day. You listen to a speech that is repeated again and again and again by Minister Mantashe, Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, with a particular narrative. You listen in the same government, in the same ruling party, in the same cabinet, The people from the Presidential Climate Commission who are talking another language, and it's very difficult to understand, these two irreconcilable extremes that I've mentioned, the populist and the more professional and intellectual view. And somehow, these people that sit in the same room, in the same government, in the same party, have got to come together with a common vision. Otherwise, the center holds and we don't have any change. And the reality of South Africa is a country that is built its economy on extraction, the extraction of resources. Firstly, gold and diamonds and minerals, and then coal. I mean, if you think about energy today, and note that you have Eskom who generate 80% of the electricity from coal. You have Sasol, who produce liquid fuels from coal. You have steel making, which relies on coal. The economy is so heavily dependent on coal, and there are very strong vested commercial interests in this sector. Emerging black mining companies who have been encouraged by government policy, and it's one of the success stories of BEE. They have bought the assets of exiting coal majors at great rock bottom prices, and they've mortgaged their soul with the banks to borrow the money to get into this field. And they are heavily dependent on the revenue streams from their businesses, from coal. And suddenly government, you hear, a just transition, a move away from coal. These were the same people that were encouraged to get into coal, to mortgage their soul. If their revenue streams die out, they are wiped out. And of course, they now determined to protect those revenue streams. And there's a very strong political lobby, making donations to the parties, making sure that their voice is heard. They speak with a big voice. And so that's the kind of challenge that we face in the energy transition. But I think I've said enough. I just want to say we've somehow got to understand each other, start talking together, and realize that we do face an existential crisis, but we have these two extremes. The one extreme says, we recognize that we need to have a transition, a just transition, but we must do it as slow as possible. And then you have the other extreme that says, we recognize that we need an energy transition, but we must do it as fast as possible. Somewhere in the middle is going to be what actually turns out. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, is my mic working?
No, not yet. I think
Try
we
again.
switch it on there.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the beauty of being the last person to speak is that your colleagues would have done the work for you. Yeah. And so my job is best to repeat what they have said and summarize it. Okay. But, you know, as I was listening to my two colleagues, Dora and Chris, and I listened to them very carefully, I came to realize that we indeed are living in the age of stupid. We are indeed part of that group, because for some reason, as a collective, national, regional, and global, are tending not to want to respond and fix the problems that we are generating. And as I was listening to them very carefully, I started thinking about myself. Because I'm one of those people that flushes my toilet using drinking water. And then I'm asking myself, I want the future to be green. How is my future going to be green if I am part and parcel of that group of people that is involved in using drinking water? So essentially, we are all living in the age of stupidity. And there is need for us to start rethinking who we are as a people, as a community, and as societies. I like the point that, Chris, that you raised. The drive for economic progression, the expanding economy, so that this economy can then be inclusive and then meet the needs of our society. And I'm looking at Dora, who also talks about the need for us to transform our institutions and our policies in such a way that these can speak one to another. But at the moment, we aren't doing that. As a country, we are busy at the moment commodifying wetlands. If you drive around Johannesburg, you'll find that the very life-supporting systems, wetlands is one of those supporting life systems because it is an area that sequestrates carbon. It is an area that purifies our water resources. And Tamisa, we are living in a country that is ranked the 30th driest country in the world. But we are busy commodifying those very simple life-supporting systems. Wetlands in Johannesburg as a country as a whole have been transformed into other commercial services. The drive for commercial actualization. And that then is putting at risk our environment, which is the basis of all social economic development. Like I said, indeed, we are in the age of stupid because we refuse to think. It then becomes necessary, ladies and gentlemen, that how does your green future look like, you as an individual? How do you, view the future for yourself, for your families, and for your community? What is it that you as an individual are doing to make that reality come true? What is your lifestyle that you are involved in trying to contribute to the green future? And I'll tell you this, as of this year, we have already subjected 25 million tons of edible food in Johannesburg to the landfill. 25 million of edible food that you can go to the dump site, sit there and eat, you will not die. But as a community, we have actually taken that food off from our houses, and it's in Dobsonville and all the landfills. And as that food is decomposing, it is creating methane that is going up into the atmosphere and changing our climate. Look at the amount of water that you yourselves use in your houses. Look at your transport system. Let's be honest with one another. And let's ask the question then, who is responsible to change, to instill the future that we desire? Where does it start from? Does it start from the president, Mr. Ramaphosa? Does it start from the global engagements that we have currently, COP28? Where should the change start? And I want to propose, and I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that that's change. To be environmentally aware, for us to have a green future, has to start with you and me. That change that starts at the minute level has to start with you. Because together we form South Africa. Together we form Africa. Together we form the world. And hence the importance of us to be activists, environmental activists. We cannot replace the importance of your actions with the skills base that this country will have. We cannot replace your actions as an individual with the amount of resources that McDonald's, our sponsors, are going to put in place. These are tools that will enable us to get somewhere. But the change has to start with us. It has to start in our communities. It has to start in our schools. How much of the teaching about climate change, environmental change, water resource management, optimal energy utilization is being taught in our schools? Absolutely nothing. So then where is the change going to start from? If the change we desire does not start from our education system. It does not help me to spend my entire life and mourn out and cry out to university students whose characters have already been formed in terms of food consumption. You know, they say the lion or the leopard. Is it the lion? Which one changes its spots? None of them. None of them. But we know that the leopard has got spots, and it's difficult for us, you know. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that change that we desire has to start with us. The activism, the change towards bringing down our carbon emissions has to start with us. And I see at the back, I've got my good friend, that we go and fight what is going on with water was in the mines. It's always a pleasure to see you, my friend. She's been shot at.
Yeah.
She's been chased. She carries on the job
Yeah.
of really bringing the attention of the importance of our actions to the environment. Because if we are not careful, we are putting at risk the very basis of our existence. And that basis of our existence is nothing else but Mother Environment. Therefore, it becomes necessary for each one of us to take our own action, because part of what is causing climate change or carbon emissions is not filtering from a space somewhere, it is coming from us. And therefore, we need to have collective action. And therefore, we need to have innovation. We need to have investment. And more importantly, Dora, we need to have policies and strategies that speak to one another, that are aligned to one another, that these things should not be spoken about and the space of climate change is very wicked because it also attracts funding. And so, as different departments, we are eyeing to get a share of that money. We forget about the most important thing of aligning our strategies and aligning our policies so that collectively we can respond and deal with the current crisis that we have. There is no basis, ladies and gentlemen, for us to have lost 40,000 people in KwaZulu-Natal. There was no basis for that. There is no basis for us to continue being unable to deal with wildfires. There is need for us to mobilize those resources. And those resources we have already proved. Dora, we've been sitting at all these meetings, you know, the COP20, and I've actually refused to go to this COP because my bill to go there for my accommodation was coming to 178,000. Who does that? My flight to Dubai, return ticket, was 48,000. Who does that? I would rather that money is channeled into a small project that will help Mama's Buko in KZN, in Ntuli, to respond and adapt ourselves to the impacts of climate change. The change, ladies and gentlemen, is in your hands, it is in my hands. We cannot shy away from these discussions. We have together, we can desire and design and sculpt the future for our next generation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now you know why these three panelists are on the stage. I think that, thank you so much for your insights. I think that's really important. You know, Pop, you drive home the message of the individual. And I think so often we forget that. Even people who are in this room who are championing the environment in different sectors, be it in waste, in water, in climate, agriculture, it is for us to really readdress what are our individual actions on a daily basis. How many of us look at the label when we go and buy fruits and vegetables and actually look, where did that produce come from? Because what we don't look at is at the fine print. And so often that food has a carbon footprint before we've even taken it home. We have to be more conscious of really being innovative, finding small farm stalls in our communities, investing in local economies, investing in local produce, making sure that we think about packaging. You know, that plastic bag that you take, it might be 1 rand, 10 cents, 40 cents somewhere, but every time it's just a small amount of money. But that plastic bag lands up on a landfill or lands up in the ocean. It's important for us to also remember here in the great big city of Johannesburg, our impact on the ocean is unthinkable. But because we can't see the ocean, we think that we don't have an impact. And you know, Dora, you mentioned connectedness, connecting the dots. And one of my greatest challenges as a climate activist has always been to connect the dots, especially in South Africa, a country with such social challenges. How do we connect the social challenges to get people to understand the climate challenge as well? And I think each and every one of us has to be a champion. Each and every one of us in our daily lives has to be an environmental, passionate warrior, because all of us have to understand that we are all connected to the farmer that is producing the coffee beans that's impacted by the drought or the floods. We're all connected to the person who is somewhere far away from us, but we rely on the produce that they bring into our homes on a daily basis for an event such as this. And the list goes on. And who of us can say we're not affected by the impacts of the energy crisis we face? And Chris, I would like to perhaps ask you if you will just give us some insight. Everyone is anxious. We move to stages that we don't even know. We're on stage 2, then we're on stage 6. We're in a crisis at the moment because South Africa is in such an uncertain place. We walk down a road of some kind of certainty or some kind of structure, and it continues to fall apart. Where are we at, and what would you perhaps share with South Africans, those who are joining online as well? Because I think South Africans it doesn't even matter if you have solar on your house and you're completely off the grid. Once you leave your home and you land up at a robot and that robot is out, everything is delayed. The impact is so great, and we don't even fully understand the economic impact on our country.
Thanks. I agree with you, Prof. It starts with us. And of course, the activists, the NGOs, and the media play an important vanguard role in mobilizing us. But to answer some of the hard issues in South Africa is going to take more than that. And it has to ultimately, people are very complacent about behavior, and they don't just change their behavior because some activist is shouting from the rooftops. The thing that changes their behavior is economic.
Yes.
It is the price that you pay. And the problem is, unfortunately, that the price that we pay is not cost reflective. And when I talk about cost reflective, I include the cost of externalities, the cost to the environment, the costs to society, the cost to taxpayers is not taken into account in the cost of product until the cost of drinking water is cost reflective. People are going to use it to flush their toilet. And if there was a price for grey water and a price for drinking water that was properly cost reflective, people then can make that economic decision. It's the same with load shedding electricity. We see Eskom come on radio and TV and say, please switch off your appliances, blah, blah, blah. And they do this for months on end. Eventually it's like, it's just a background noise. And people don't respond to it. Why? Because there is no cost benefit except the benefit to Eskom. Okay? We need to actually put in place economic incentives that are cost reflective. I mean, in things like energy efficiency, if it pays you to be more efficient, people will start doing it. So all I'm trying to say is we're going to come up with solutions. We got to get beyond the shouting from the rooftops. It is important. The media play an important role in this, and the NGOs and activists too. We've got to make people realize that how expensive the just energy transition is, and it's billions, hundreds of billions, in fact, over $1 trillion. It is more cost effective than not doing it. The cost to all of us and society will be much higher if we do not. And that's the role we got to, the media and activists need to get that message across, that this is actually an economic driver. We need to change, otherwise we're going to be paying. Maybe not us, but our children will. But eventually they will pay the price of doing nothing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for our phenomenal panel. Can I ask, would any of you like to make a closing remark before we move on?
Yes. You know, I think what Prof was saying, I think again, what Chris is saying is that we have to really recognize the role of our individual contributions. And again, recognize the role of us as corporate South Africa, the role of us as civil society, the role of us as government. We all have got a role to play in all of this. And I think, but again, it boils down to the individual. When you are an activist and you find yourself in a government institution or a corporate institution, you bring yourself, you bring the whole of yourself, you bring your whole values and your whole principles, and you are more likely to be able to influence from inside what then happens. And I think we have got no option but actually to go through this. And we are the ones that will determine whether it's going to be easy or is going to be very difficult. And I think the way that we are going, the trajectory of this whole thing is proving that it's going to be more painful. But it's going to be more painful to those that are already at a disadvantage. Those that still don't have access to clean water to flush the toilet with, that don't have access to sanitation, don't have access to reliable electricity, whose lives are completely disconnected. And that's the dilemma that South Africa finds itself in, because we are one of the most unequal societies in the world. And when we talk about equity, it's not about the North and the South. It's also within this, within our nation. What is the face of climate change? What is the face of poverty? What is the, who bears that face? And we have to start to reduce it to the numbers that we always put the numbers. That the level of poverty has gone up. Who is actually, you know, bearing the brand of our disconnectedness? Who are the people who are struggling every day, who've got no safeguards? When they lose their shack or they lose their hut, they lose their furniture, that's everything that they lose. You and I might be able to go and claim the insurance. We can afford to have 10 fridges. We can afford to have 4 cars. Each one of us leave our home if every morning with all our individual cars and we come back to it, you know. But think about those, our impacts go deeper than just ourselves, you know, in a heat wave. It goes further to the men and women who work in your backyard, work in your house, look after your children, and go off at the end of the day. Because when that storm comes, when that flood comes, when that heat wave, when that drought comes, it takes with it everything that they own. And that's why it's important that when we are at the global negotiations, we talk about the loss and damage, the criticalness of that to the livelihoods of the people who do not have any safeguards. When they lose something, they lose it once and for all. And we are already there. And we need to bring that face and keep it at the back of our minds, that our actions matter. Our actions actually have got a deeper negative impact than we can realize, because it's easy to apply to think, not in my backyard. You press one switch, the light is on, even though you don't need it. You flush the toilet, you actually don't know where it's going from. We put all the rubbish in the bin, you've got no idea where it ends up to. It ends up somewhere. And it is all about people at the end of the day in the natural environment that sustains the life that we are to lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora, for that. That's quite profound. You know, I just want to say this, that we live at a very critical time. In the history of mankind, we live in a very critical time. We are probably the first generation, and we are indeed the last generation to be able to start thinking proactively in terms of setting the template for mitigating against climate, as well as developing strategies for adapting to climate change. The future generations, our children, our grandchildren, they will judge us for what we are able to do now and not able to do now. And therefore, it is very critical for each one of us, for our institutions, for our leaders, global leaders, regional leaders, and national leaders, as well as local leaders, including individuals and communities, that whatever we do today will stand for our next generation to judge us in terms of our actions and our attitude towards climate change. I implore you, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now for us to set the templates for our next generation so we can enable them in our own small contribution to respond and adapt to the impending challenges of climate change. In the recent days, we have all felt the heat, and our models are predicting worse than what we have experienced. Let's be the change. Let's push the change. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I probably said more than you need to hear. And but it does remain for me to thank my favorite weekend read newspaper, Mail and Guardian, for putting this function together. Thank the environmental editor of Mail and Guardian for being that voice, for being that vanguard, for mobilizing the country and keeping us informed so that we can start thinking about changing our lifestyles. And yeah, in conclusion, just to say that I've spoken about these different silos in government that all seem to operate separately, and not just government, private sector as well. And we need to start breaking down these silos, talking to each other, but more important, listening to each other first, before we shoot our mouth, to listen carefully so that we understand where the different people's thoughts are coming from, so we have a better response. And one positive sign that I just see in electricity, and one can criticize the Minister of Electricity till the cows come home, the reality is he's been given accountability. He's been given responsibility to end load shedding, and there is now a person responsible. And I admire the energy he's bringing to the task. I admire the urgency he's bringing to it. Not always successful, but that's the nature of the beast. But I do see that this is a new approach. When he first took office, I was quite critical. That was just complicating the governance structure more. But I'm beginning to see the benefits of accountability. And of course, the big driver, the most important driver, is the election next year. This is bringing this new urgency, this new energy to the table. And of course, the media play a very important role, in the lead up to the elections, in countering some of the nonsense that is spoken, and putting, the real arguments on the table. So I'm really honored to have been invited here, and well done to Mail and Guardian. And we're going to hear well done to those winners of these awards today. I'm looking forward to that part of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you very, very much. We're going to go to that very important part of the program, and we are going to very shortly announce what you have all been waiting for, and those are our incredible winners. But before we get there, I've just got a few house rules and a few things I just want to quickly mention. For those of you who may need the bathroom, it's up the stairs at the back. For those of you who are on social media, once again, let me share the hashtags with you. Hashtag GTF2023 as per the screen, but also please use hashtag greening the future. And it's important for us to celebrate and share Please, there were nuggets of wisdom here that I'm hoping somebody has actually shared out, and I'm sure the Mail and Guardian platforms will have that available on their platform as well. But it's so important for us to also celebrate and use the rest of this morning to honor the recipients of these prestigious awards. So please go find that hashtag, follow it, share, and use your platforms across social media. For those of you who are sharing, there is a live stream on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel for Mail and Guardian. And very, very lastly, those of you who may not have a subscription and want to have more information on Mail and Guardian, at the back, Tandasa has got information. You can chat to her a bit later. Please make sure that you pass her table in that far corner on my right at the back, and she'll be able to answer any questions you have a little bit later after the official proceedings. I want to just also share that one of the last points made was, I think, Chris, you mentioned the silos that exist across society, and we need to break those down. However, today in this room, across the sector of environment and climate, there are also silos within this room. Some of you work in sustainability, agriculture, water, waste. I would also encourage you to network today. Start to create barriers between yourselves, because we too, as an industry and a space, have silos. And unfortunately, that's the unpopular thing to say, but it's the truth. And so if we leave here having connected with people that Mail and Guardian has brought into a space together, we're stronger together, because it is the collective effort that is going to have greater impact. Without further ado, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're now going to move on to celebrating those environmental heroes. Ecosystem disruptions, whether it is through all forms of pollution, altered landscapes, through urbanization and agriculture, and the decline in species, creates a crisis. And the biggest crisis facing humanity and the natural world is climate change. It is no longer an impending crisis somewhere on the horizon. It is with us in this very moment today. To address climate change and its detrimental effect on the natural environment, ecosystems, and human well-being, it is vital to transition to a greener future. Organizations and individuals need to act in a positive way that will restore and preserve resources for the future. And that is why we are also here today, to celebrate the work of the amazing work that you do. Those of you who are here in the room with us, and those who have joined us online. Now, for the announcement on the screens, when you see your name or the organization that you're here to represent, I'd like to ask you to please make your way onto stage. Join me and just make your way to the furthest end. I'm going to ask Ozar Patel, the Mail and Guardian environmental editor, to join me here on stage for the announcement of these prestigious awards. And please make sure that you do stay on stage until the end of your category, just so that we can also do a group picture. We're going to go through each of the categories. I will announce and just give you a preview of that category, and we will then go on to the winners. Our first category, and the announcement is on the biodiversity stewardship. Climate change and the growing human footprint are having a devastating effect on all species. And this category recognizes work that aims to secure natural systems, biodiversity, and ecosystem services. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the winners. And if you see your picture up on stage, please make your way. And with pleasure, please go ahead and put your hands together for these incredible winners in the biodiversity stewardship category. Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way onto the stage for those of you who are here in the room. As I mentioned, some of our recipients are joining us online. Please make your way to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please, those of the recipients who are not here now, please just to make mention, the certificates will be outside. So you're welcome to pick up your certificate outside. If you have missed your award or you don't get it, they will be waiting for you outside. To this category, a huge round of applause. I think you guys can do better than that. These are indeed our biodiversity champions, and this is the biodiversity stewardship category. We're going to move on to the next category, which is clean air and renewable energy. Because we're still a coal-dependent country and one that is subjected to devastating load shedding, this category looks at the innovation and practices that use clean energy, reduce fossil fuel use, ensure the transition is just, and that people's health is no longer compromised. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the winners of this category for 2023. Ladies on stage, represented is the Climate Justice Coalition, and Alex is representing the Climate Justice Coalition. A huge, with his team, a huge round of applause for an amazing. Can I perhaps ask, and maybe just ask that we make almost a semicircle here so that everyone can be in this picture and we can have Oz right in the middle there, just nicely so that everyone gets to be in the picture. Just move down this way towards me. No, towards me. Towards me. Yes. There you go. We need a big group photo, and this is one giant group photo of champions within the space. So you need to make sure you're all there. Ladies and gentlemen, another huge round of applause. I just want to say, none of you are getting away with just like a quiet clap. These are the activists I see on the streets. These are the ones that are holding down buildings. These are the ones that are making noise. So we're going to be here and we're going to celebrate our climate supporting. The next category is green finance. Now, financing that supports energy transition, decarbonization efforts, and jobs that are needed. This category recognizes the champions of sustainable, environmentally sound financial planning. Ladies and gentlemen. Our next category is the mining category. This category looks at efforts to counter environmental harms caused by mining. The country's wealth was built on mining, but has left a devastating legacy. Thousands of mines have been abandoned, laws on rehabilitation are not enforced, and there is no legislation for artisanal mining. Acid mine drainage is hazardous for humans, plants, and animals. Mine blasting and dust affect people's health. Communities fear environmental degradation and displacement. Ladies and gentlemen.
Can I?
Waste management. You want to take it off?
Yes, yes, yeah.
From the trees and the pavements are burning, I see it around. Trying to solve, but the air is so heavy to drive. Strange voices are saying, what did they say? Things I can't understand. It's the cause for comfort they see has got right out of hand. It's a cruel summer, leaving me here on my own.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way back to your seat. We're going to just promptly resume. Okay. We're going to just wait. I see steps up and down, people up and down the stairs. But if you could resume, make your way back to your seat, we'll start shortly.
Leaving me here on my own, it's cruel summer. Now you're gone, you're not the only one. It's cruel summer. Leaving me here on my own, it's cruel summer. Now you're gone, you're not the only one. No, don't you leave me. No, don't you leave me. No, don't you leave me. Come on. No, don't you leave me. No, don't you leave me. No, don't you leave me.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may ask you to please take your seat, just so we can quickly jump back straight into our awards. And we're going to go straight back to mining. So we're going to have to start that category again very quickly. I'm just going to wait a few seconds for the people at the back to just take their seats. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to jump straight back into starting the mining category again, and put your hands together once again for the category winners. I just want to check, is Kirsten or Janice in the room with us today? So we don't have to redo that picture. Okay, we're going to have to go straight into the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, sustainable agriculture. The current global food system has done more damage to our natural environment than any other human enterprise. This category is for activities such as environmentally sustainable agricultural practices, agricultural waste management, and climate-smart food production. Ladies and gentlemen, our winners in this category are ladies and gentlemen, I think we have two beautiful women who are the recipients in this category, sustainable agriculture. And straight into the next one, which is sustainable design. This category is for those who create products that enable us to live more sustainable lives, from sustainable fashion, sustainable furniture, to even packaging. It also includes rehabilitating urban spaces and construction that considers low energy and water use and the building materials used. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners in this category, please welcome onto stage those who are in the room with us. Oh, it's just Rian Lowe. I don't know if Rian is here today or if he's joining us online. Okay, I think Rian is online, but a huge well done and congratulations to him. We jump straight into waste and chemical management. The safe management of waste is vital for preserving the environment. This category includes management practices for all aspects of handling, storage, and disposal of hazardous and other waste and recycling initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the finalists that will be in this category. We do have another finalist. Sorry, this slide caught us out, but here is, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Skulk is here. Just a reminder, Skulk is here for the sustainable design category. Apologies for that. Rian and you were divided by a slide and we missed you there. Okay, back to waste and chemical management. Please welcome onto stage our winners in this category. SA Plastic Pact. I don't know if Sweetness is here. circular energy, Mupendulo. There we go. Nicole Solomon. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. The last category for this morning is water and oceans. Activities such as fossil fuel exploration in the ocean and freshwater pollution from a variety of sources in a semi-arid country exacerbated by climate change threaten our oceans and water resources. This category looks at preservation and protection of marine ecosystems and water sources, as well as practices and innovations that ensure clean water for all. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners in this category as follows. Please come. Ladies and gentlemen, water and oceans. I'd like to ask you to put your hands together again for all the winners in all the categories. To the individuals, the organizations, and the people behind the big NGOs that we all know. It was wonderful to see the faces and the people here on the stage. All of you, thank you so, so much. I'm going to now hand over. Oz, you're going to give us a beautiful introduction of the Green Guardian and assist us with the vote of thanks.
Hi, everyone. The first thanks has to go to the team who decided to let Catherine host without me so that you're not subjected to my voice for 3 hours. But thank you all for being here. Please, you can get a copy of the Mail and Guardian, which will have all your profiles for all the winners. It will be in the paper tomorrow. And yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for joining us. This is a remarkable celebration of environmental stewardship and dedication to combating climate change. It's really heartening to see such a diverse and passionate group of individuals gathered here. And we're all united by a common interest, which is preserving our planet for future generations. I'd like to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for your unwavering support in making this awards a success. Your presence is really a testament to our shared belief in the urgency of addressing the pressing issues facing our environment. We're here not just to recognize outstanding achievements, but also to inspire action. The impact of climate change is an ever-growing challenge that demands collective effort and innovative solutions. As we celebrate these achievements, for all of you who have taken significant strides in the fight against climate change, we'd like to acknowledge the journey ahead requires a lot more collaboration. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to my colleagues behind the scenes for making this event a success. Our responsibility as journalists is to shine a light on these critical issues that shape our world. We believe that journalism plays a really important role in raising awareness, fostering dialogue, and driving positive change. Our small but dedicated team is committed to covering this important time in our lives. I would like to invite each and every one of you to consider how you contribute to the Green Guardian, our climate and environment section of the Mail and Guardian. In the spirit of unity, I urge you to please support our journalism, which strives to amplify these voices and work tirelessly to protect our environment and climate. Your involvement, whether through spreading awareness, engaging constructively in conservation conversations, or providing financial support, can really make a difference. Together, we can leverage the power of information to drive action, inspire change, and create a sustainable future. Let's harness the energy in this room and take us forward in our mission to combat climate change. Please sign up to the Green Guardian and consider helping us in our aim to secure funding and growing the team. Once again, thank you for your presence, your commitment, your passion. Let's continue this journey.
Okay, remember.
Let's continue this journey together towards a healthier, greener, and more sustainable world. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Oz, thank you very much. And I would have liked you here on stage, but nonetheless, next year. Thank you to each and every one of you who has been here today. Again, I'd like to just drive home that events and gatherings like this, the opportunity to celebrate activists, organizations, and entities who are doing this important work is only possible because of the sponsors who make it so. So once again, to the sponsors who are here, those who are joining online, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for your support of such an event. Please continue to tag, tweet, X, whatever you do on X, Instagram stories, do whatever, go do the things. The hashtag, once again, GTF 2023 and hashtag greening the future. Make sure to all take your pictures in front of our Mail and Guardian banner at the back. Make sure to tag us and just celebrate this moment. We're going into two really intense weeks of COP28. Dora, we're going to be following you because I think you're the only one in this room that possibly is going. We're going to follow you. You take us all with you. And so we will be following the journey. It's an important conversation. And I agree with Prof. Wholeheartedly on his sentiments about the travel. However, we're sending one ambassador here and she's going to go forward. She takes us all with her, and it's important for us to continue to own that space in that platform and dialogue. Thank you to all of you who are here today. Thank you to everyone. Please don't forget to get a copy of your Mail and Guardian, which has the profiles. You can also go to mg.co.za / greening the future. You'll see the profiles there. Let us continue to celebrate and share and amplify each other's work. Don't forget to go to the back and you'll speak to Tandasa. She'll give you some more info. If you don't yet have your subscription, please make sure you do get it. Thank you so much for all being with us today. It's been an honor and privilege to be your host, and thank you for celebrating the Greening the Future 2023 award winners with us. I am going to just ask all of the winners. We're going to try to...
Plato said, "Who will guard the guardians? Who are our guardians? Do they care about us? Are they accountable for their actions, or are they above the law? Who elects these guardians? Us? Them? Someone else? And if they guard us, who will guard them? Who will guard the guardians?